Generations of women have been told what they must do and must not do in order to be accepted by society. They've been told that following those guidelines is in their best interest and that following them would make them happy. The patriarchy allotted women certain roles in society. Most women just did as they were told. They did not realize that they could choose to not follow those rules. They could decide what they wanted their lives to look like. Ancient cultures did not consider masculinity superior to femininity. Women back then embodied their feminine energy. But with time, as societies became more patriarchal and men started getting paid for the work that they did, people started viewing femininity as a weakness, and the work that women did was considered less valuable. For several generations, women were oppressed, exploited, and abused by men. The biological differences between men and women were used to justify male supremacy. Generations of women believed that they were not as good or as valuable as men, and so they accepted an inferior position in society. But with time, women started speaking up against their exploitation by men and they started demanding equal rights. But they continued to believe that their femininity was their weakness. To be treated equally, women started trying to prove that they can do everything that men can do because they still believed that being masculine is more valuable than being feminine. Most of our mothers come from a generation of women who were still being exploited to some extent. Educational and career opportunities were available to them, but socially, a lot of them were denied those opportunities, either because their parents did not want to invest in their daughter's education or because they were married off and their husbands and in-laws restricted them to domestic work alone. Look, no one can force you to do something unless you give them the power to do that. Our mother's generation of women were aware of the many ways in which they were being exploited, but they were socially trained to be submissive and docile. They believed that one needs to be more like men to be respected and treated well in society. They themselves did not value femininity. When these women became mothers, they wanted their daughters to be quote unquote strong like men. They wanted their daughters to be completely independent so that they would not have to depend on men. These women were exploited because they were financially dependent on their husbands, and so they tend to believe that their daughters can have better lives if they are financially independent. Now, there is nothing wrong with wanting your daughter to be financially independent, but the problem is that these women's beliefs are rooted in fear. They tend to believe that all men are the same and that their daughters would need to protect themselves from their own partners. In fact, their husbands too have this fear, and so they want their daughters to be financially independent so that they are not treated the way they have been treating their own wives. Since parents, especially mothers, want their daughters to have better lives, they tend to not appreciate their daughters' femininity. Girls are encouraged to and appreciated for doing masculine things, but not for being their feminine selves. Feminine interests are considered distractions, and feminine traits are considered weaknesses. Previous generations of women were expected to be like their mothers, but our generation is told that we must not be like our mothers. Culture is usually passed down from one generation to the next by women. When we don't value the things that only our mothers know and the knowledge and wisdom that they hold, we tend to cut ourselves off from our roots. Family recipes, traditions, and practices are all passed down to the next generation by women. When we don't consider them important and we don't care to learn them simply because those things don't have monetary value, we end up culturally poorer. If some men and even women don't value the things that come naturally to us as feminine women, then it is their problem. We don't need to deprive ourselves of our heritage simply because we want to fit into their idea of a worthy person. It isn't just culture that suffers when we expect women to act like men. A lot of women these days suffer from health and fertility issues because they have not been honoring their cyclical nature. Women's hormonal cycles are around 28 days long and our energy levels fluctuate throughout the month. Men can have the same energy level every single day because their hormonal cycles are 24-hour long. Women are not meant to be equally productive every single day, and so when we push ourselves to compete with men in fields that demand a very masculine style of working, whether it is the long hours or jobs that involve a lot of stress, we set ourselves up for failure. Remember that women cannot beat men at being men. The world was built by men, and so it has a very masculine structure. But we as women don't need to play by their rules. Most of the women who think that they want to be successful in a masculine way do so because they want to prove that they are as good as men, if not better. You need to realize that there is nothing to prove. As long as your worth is based on how others perceive you, you can never feel worthy. And even if you do, you will always be subconsciously worried about losing your worth. You are worthy simply because you exist. You don't have to do something or be a certain way to be worthy. What is the point of getting that external validation and approval if the things that you do to get it are harming your own health? Stifling your femininity doesn't just harm your physical health, it also negatively affects your emotional and mental health. You cannot be at peace if you are acting against your innate nature. Also, women's bodies are not built to handle the same amount of stress as men's bodies are, and so the same level of stress negatively affects a woman's body more than it affects a man's body. Our mother's generation of women usually did as they were told. Even if they want their daughters to have better lives, they don't really encourage them to be the way they want to be, and instead tell them what they should do and not do, even if those things are very different from what was expected of their generation of women. A lot of women from our generation tend to feel guilty if they don't choose masculine careers because they are shamed for not making use of the opportunities that are available to them. Our mothers might not have had those opportunities, but that doesn't mean that we allow them to tell us what should or should not make us happy. Nothing is more important than your health. Nothing is more important than your peace and happiness. Suppressing your natural feminine urges and desires will only make you miserable, even if the whole world praises you for your achievements. Men and women are inherently equal. Certain people may not believe that, but you don't have to make them change their beliefs before you choose to embody your femininity. There will always be people who don't value it, but their opinions must not dictate your life choices. If you are naturally a feminine woman, you don't need to change yourself and try to be more masculine to get external validation, whether from your parents or from society in general. If you truly want a life that is better than what your mother had, stop trying to please others. Your femininity is your power. It is a precious gift that nature has bestowed upon you. Own it and honor it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, then don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Other than that, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.